This is how you reduce render times. First thing I would do is go ahead and check if you have a graphics card that you can use. So to enable your graphics card, go to Edit, Preferences, and then System, and see if you have a graphics card. If you have an NVIDIA graphics card, your GPU will show up under the CUDA option. But if you have an AMD graphics card like I do, it'll show up in the OpenCL. And make sure that you have it selected. And once you do that, you can just X out of it. And after that, go to your device settings and select GPU compute. This will reduce your render time by a lot. And after that, go to performance and to your tiles section and change the tiles from 264 pixels to 256 by 256. Statistically, it has been shown that that larger tiles perform better when you use a GPU compared to smaller tiles in a CPU. So only make your tile size 256 times 256 when you're using a GPU. Next thing you want to do is enable denoising. And Blender comes pre-built with AI denoising, which is really cool. So what you do is under the sampling section, go to denoising, select your render, and then make sure you select open image denoise. And lastly, make sure that your render samples are not too high. I've seen way too many people crank up their samples to about 1,000, 2,000. It just makes no sense. A good samples number would around 300 or 400, but if you really don't need that much detail, I would just do 150. Next up, if you duplicate a lot of objects, instead of doing the most common duplication method, just Shift D, instead try Alt D. It takes up less vertices and actually saves space for your computer. So as you can see, I've duplicated these trees about 20 times, but it only uses as much space as one tree, as they are linked together, compared to using the traditional Shift D method, which duplicates which is not good and will increase your render time by a lot. So make sure that you use Alt D when duplicating objects that are scattered in the background and are not important. Another thing that you can enable is simplify, and I'm not really sure what this does. It seems really complicated, but I found that if you enable simplify, go to AO bounces and enter 2, you can actually reduce render time. So I finished rendering my file and I've recorded the times, and when I used my CPU with no tweaks and changes, it took me nearly 8 minutes and 25 seconds. Whereas when I rendered my GPU and I added all kinds of the tweaks that I had mentioned in the video, it took me only 2 minutes and 45 seconds, which is a huge difference.